Hello, friends. It is Sunday night. I'm back for Storytime Sundays, day 82 my challenge. And so, it's been a while. Valentine's last weekend, and then I think the weekend before I missed as well. So, I just want to come on and just share a little bit about my experiences with, as you can tell from my title, the homeless. Um, I just remember growing up, my mom and most of my mom, but my parents in general, they kind of, in a way, instilled fear in me when it came to dealing with the homeless. I remember when I was maybe 10, 11, 12, my family would go grocery shopping in Vancouver in Chinatown, and we lived in Langley, and so it would be a whole day trip, and Chinatown was it's next to Maine and Hastings, and in Vancouver that's an area where there were a lot of drug addicts and homeless people. And so my mom would be like, oh, be careful, lock the doors, don't let anybody in. And as a young kid, I was only 10 or 11, and of course I'm like, oh, okay, like, are these people dangerous, right? I didn't know. My mom didn't explain a lot of things to me. She just told me stuff to do. But again, that subconsciously it just instilled some fear, and I get it. She had three young boys. I was probably 10, 11. My young brother was 1 year younger. My older brother was still in his teens, right? So I get that. She's trying to protect her boys. So, but unconsciously, I grew up kind of fearing, people who were begging for money or the homeless a little bit, and they would always teach me not to give them money but to give them food if we're going to give anything to them. They said to, they're still people, but the way that that it was presented to me didn't feel that way, to say that. And so I would fear homeless people as I was growing up, and I would never I would never be rude or treat them poorly. It was just every time I walked by, my heart would beat, and like, is this going to hurt me? But they never did, right? Obviously, some people have some mental issues, and others were just begging for money, but they would never hurt me, or none of them were ever aggressive with me. So grateful for that. But as I got older, I started to hear stories of people who used to be homeless, and they got out of that situation, and they created a decent life. And so that gave me a different perspective. I'm like, oh, okay, well, who are these people? Like, did they? I've always been a curious Edison, if you will. So I'd always ask, okay, how did these people become homeless? Did they choose to be homeless, and why are they? Because I'm like, why wouldn't you want to stay in, have a roof over your head? Like, I don't know. I'm like, to me as a young kid, and even a young adult growing up, I'm like, we live in Canada. Like, whatever you want, you can basically have, in terms of basic necessities, right? There's lots of programs. And so, because of that, I started to want to ask questions. And so anytime anybody shared that they used to be homeless, I would always ask them, hey Donna, I would also always ask them a question. And then a few years ago, I was on a challenge, if you will, or just my success habits, where every day I would engage with at least 15 new people that I've never met before, and sometimes, oh hi Camilla, Jaya. Sometimes I would go late into the night. Because 15 engagements with new people I've never met before, that's a decent amount of people. And if I didn't start early enough, I'd have to go later on. And sometimes I'd be out at 11 p.m. or midnight. And at that time, there's not that many places that are open. But some are. And usually there were some homeless people there, either begging for money or something. Usually money. And I've had a number of different experiences. At times I've given some money, at times I've given people food or water or what have you. And I remember one time, this guy, it was Christmas, and he basically said, hey, can you give me some money? I need to grab a taxi back to Abbotsford. That's where I live. And in general, I usually don't want to just give straight up money. I'd rather buy them food, drink, or something, and but it's Christmas. I figured, hey, uh, sure. And then I would see him again shortly after in Vancouver, Burnaby again. And I'm like, hey, I thought you lived out in Abbotsford. What are you doing here? And so obviously he lied to me, and I see him again, and every time he would beg for money, ask for money, and because I gave him one time, he kept asking every time, and the second time I just bought him some food, and the thing was, and I asked him, like I would ask him, tell me your story. Why are you in this situation? And everything that came out of his mouth was basically the language of a victim. This happened to me, that happened to me, and I can't do this, I can't do that. I asked him, have you tried to better your situation? And I would just listen. I would just try to uplift and encourage, and maybe hopefully help him out in another way. But he just was not wanting really to change the situation. And so, then he asked me again. I said no, and I told him why. I said, because you're choosing to actually stay in the situation. Some of you might think that's harsh, but I just had a heart-to-heart with him. I said, hey, I want to see you have a better life. But if you keep choosing this, nothing's ever going to change. And if I continue to just give you money, then that's actually enabling your behavior. Do you actually want to change your situation? And again, victim speak. So that was one experience that I remember. And then another time I was in a McDonald's, a 24-hour one, and again it was about midnight. Some of my escapades, and I would sit down, and I saw a guy with a huge backpack. So, hey, where are you going? Looks like you're going to travel somewhere. And he says, oh, this is my stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, oh, yeah, I'm homeless. I'm like, oh, how are you doing? He says, oh, I'm okay. And we'd have a really nice conversation, but his speak was very different. It was not victim. He took responsibility of his choices and his situation. And he told me, he's like, wow, like this is what happened, and this is how I got to where I'm at. But it's okay. That was my choice, and I'm trying to get back on my feet. But I'm just taking steps right now, and I'll get there. And then I just encouraged him and said, yeah, that's awesome. I got him a coffee. Well, actually, no, I offered to get him a snack something. He already ate, but I had a free coffee thing, so I just, here, take this. Next time you need a coffee, just use this. It's a free thing. So he thanked me for that. And, but I asked him one thing. I'm like, hey, let me ask you something. And this, for every person who's taken responsibility of the situation of being homeless, it's the same answer every time. I said, let me ask you something. If there's one thing that I could do for you, or someone who's homeless, what would that be? And every time it's the same answer. And what he said back to me was exactly what you're doing now. I said, what do you mean? Treat me like a human being. And he went on to explain, because every time I go and apply for something, like food cards or benefits or whatever, it says every time I'm just treated as a number. They don't see me. They just see me as someone who's leeching off of the system or what have you. And that kind of broke my heart, to tell you the truth. I'm like, man, like, these are people. These are human beings who have hearts, who maybe just didn't, something was not, something didn't go well in their life, and they just found themselves in a different situation. That doesn't mean that they should be treated poorly. And, man, it's just, I just wish them well. Sorry, guys. I just wish them well. I just said, I'm impressed by you, just the way that you're handling yourself and taking responsibility. And he was very grateful for that. And I remember, and I'll share with you one last story. Um, this is another McDonald's. This is a different one. And this time, I just saw a man sitting by himself, and I just decided to engage and just ask him, "How are you doing? You know, it seems like you're alone. You waiting for somebody?" He says, "No, I'm just alone." Okay. How's your day going? He says, could be better. And we just started to chat, and he shared that he was homeless, and I forget the details, but he shared with me his story. I just asked him, "Okay, what's your story? How'd you get to where you're at?" And he took responsibility again, and he wants out of it, and he was just having a hard time dealing with it. And so I just had a conversation with him. I was waiting for a friend coming, and I just allowed him to speak. I allowed him to share, and he started to tear up, just sharing his story, what he's going through, and I just listened. I just tried to let him know that I was there, that I care, that he matters, that he is important, and that he will get out of his situation. Just take it one step at a time. And he was grateful for that. And then my friend came shortly after that, and so I offered him, "Hey, can I get you anything?" But I have my friends here. I have to, whatever. And he already ate something, so he was fine. So, but he just thanked me just for listening. And yes, Donna, a lot of homeless people are in a situation that's out of their control, right? And that's what I found. But at the end of the day, just they're still human. They still want to get noticed. They don't want to be treated less than, because they are not. And because really nobody's less than anybody, yes, Donna, anybody can become homeless due to a twist of circumstances. You never know where you're going to end up. Just my message is to be kind to everyone. We all need love, we all need understanding, we all need patience, we all need to be seen, because those conversations and how people speak are similar to people who are not homeless as well. There's a lot of people that I talk to that are not everyday people, but they speak like victims. "Oh, I can't get ahead because of this. Oh, Vancouver is so expensive, and this," and they just come up with all these excuses. And then there's other people who came from a really poor background, and they're not massive rich, but they made better choices, different choices. And so, but at the same time, everyone still wants to be seen. Everyone still wants to know that they matter. And so my message to you, my friends, is that you matter. I see you. One of the most important needs that we have is connection, my friends. And for us to connect with each other, we have to see each other as for what we are, which are, at the basic, is human beings. We are not our jobs or what we do or what have you. We are, at the end of the day, brothers and sisters. We're all human beings. Okay? Anyway, that's all I wanted to share with you tonight. It's been a while for Storytime Sunday, so yes. Hey, Nick. Definitely. So, hopefully that sheds a little light. If you don't deal or talk to the homeless much, or just people in any situation, honestly, people, just try to love each other. Okay? Anyway, hope you're having a great Sunday night, and I will see you tomorrow. I love you all.